Move over, Gerard Butler. Move over, Lon Chaney. Move over. Norm Lewis. It's time for the real Phantom of the Auditorium to hit the stage. First is the original cover, where our Phantom, who seems to be an adult man, is opening up the curtains. This is one of the last books I remember grabbing the original cover for. When I first started genuinely trying to complete my original series, I was missing about 10 books, and about 5 to 10 more were classic reprints ruining the harmony of my shelf. So this was a cover I was never used to seeing, and it's alright. The purple and pink combo is nice, and the Phantom's mask will always look cool. The tagline is, "He's out to stop the show. For good." The back tagline is, "Lights, curtain, Phantom?" Next is the UK cover, and this is because Phantom is one of the very few books to not receive a 2000s reprint, 3 of which were never printed again. This Phantom looks a lot more like a kid, though his facial features almost make him seem like Mr. Wood took up some acting. Lastly is the classic reprint, the one that took up my shelf some 13 or so years ago now. The Phantom is back to looking like an adult again, unless the kid playing him just has a really long outfit, and he has piercing green eyes. Our bonus features tell us the do's and don'ts of the stage, how to make a Halloween mask, funny questions about if your school is haunted, and some totally real haunted theaters in the real world. Last thing I want to mention here is that there is an actual real-life musical based on this book. I won't really be covering it because it would be a copyright nightmare, but just know that it exists. I was actually going to see it in person last year, but that did not work out. So now, all I ask of you is to join me for the summary. A mysterious phantom haunted our school. No one ever saw him, no one knew where he lived, but he haunted our school for more than 70 years. My best friend Zeke and I were the ones who found him. We found him while we were doing a school play about a phantom. Our teacher told us the play was cursed, but we didn't believe her. We thought it was all just a big joke. But when I saw the phantom for myself, I knew it was no joke. It was all true, every bit of it. The night we found the phantom was the scariest night of our lives. But I should start at the beginning. Our main character is Brooke Rogers, and her best friend is Zeke Matthews. She says the other girls make fun of her for having a boy best friend. But he's cooler, he's funnier, and he watches horror movies just like Brooke. They've known each other forever, so even though some girls think he's cute, she doesn't think about him like that. Now before this turns into a typical school romance, Brooke shifts the plot towards the Phantom. A few weeks ago it all began. After school, Brooke and Zeke were joking around with each other, and Zeke has to remind her that she's forgetting something. The cast list! Last year they both got minor roles in Guys and Dolls, but this year the teacher says that the play, not musical this time, that they're doing will be scary. So they had to audition, even though they don't even know what they're auditioning for. Brooke runs over to the cast list and sees a sign placed right next to it. "Attention Brooke Rogers, please report to Mr. Levy's office. You have been suspended from school." She gasps. Zeke and a few other kids laugh. He put it up himself. How she believed the principal would announce her suspension on a paper next to a cast list is beyond me, but she did. Back to the actual cast list, they're both surprised to see they got lead roles? Maybe? Zeke is the Phantom, and Brooke is Esmeralda, like from The Hunchback of Notre Dame. A mean girl makes her way through the crowd named Tina Powell. She's 1 year older than Brooke and has resting bitch face. She says Esmeralda is just some daughter of a guy who owns a theater. Boring! So she strolls up to the board and she's Brooke's understudy? Audible gasp! But she's also in charge of the scenery, so Tina has something to fall back on and Brooke is too non-confrontational to talk smack. On Monday, it's time for rehearsal, and the kids talk to each other about how, despite having roles, none of them know what the hell the play is about. Well, one person does. Tina. Her great-grandfather was in the same play at this school years back, and there's a curse on it. So not only is this world's Phantom of the Opera left to obscurity in the halls of a suburban middle school, but it's also cursed. Oh no. Apparently there's a real Phantom in this school, but before she can say any more, Miss Walker interrupts her. That scary story is too scary to tell. That means Miss Walker knows it too. Tell us. With an entire class yelling at her, Miss Walker relents and tells them the story. 72 years ago, when Woods Mill Middle School was built, and assumedly when Tina's great-grandpa attended, the kids wanted to put on a play. one of the 25 kids in the entire school got into the basement and found a script called The Phantom. It was about a girl kidnapped by the Phantom, which is probably the most concise summary of the real-life musical ever. The teacher liked it, and so they decided to make the best production they could do in 1923. The kid who found the play got to be the Phantom, but on the night of the play, he was nowhere to be found. They searched for an hour, and when the teacher announced the show could not go on, a howling scream ran out. The teacher went towards it, but still, the boy was gone. Weird! Beside Brooke, a kid cries out, "The Phantom! He's here!" Lo and behold, the Phantom is real, looking exactly like the UK cover. This is really just Zeke, however, pulling a hilarious prank with a mask he had in his locker for this exact situation. Back to the story. After the incident, all copies of the script were destroyed except for one, so the fresh and modern year of 1995 is when they decide to finally crack this thing open and act it out for the very first time. Tina reminds Miss Walker of the supposed curse on the play, that the Phantom won't let anyone perform it. She dismisses that all of this has just been a story, despite making the lines pretty blurry after saying they destroyed every script after the incident which seemingly never happened. Whatever. She gives the kids newly minted scripts to pass out, and this other kid, Corey Walker, is pretty scared. Miss Walker, what if the curse really is true? She starts dismissing him too, but stops, and screams. Brooke turns around to see that Miss Walker is gone. They yell out for her, and she calls for help from below. It seems the stage has a square trapdoor mechanism, and Miss Walker forgot about it. They activate the lever that raises it back up, and she explains that this trapdoor was installed specifically for the Phantom, but has never been used since. Assumedly, this means nobody has ever fallen down the trapdoor like this before, which means either it's just now falling apart, or someone's secretly been keeping it functional. Ooga booga! She makes it clear that no one's allowed to use it until it gets checked for safety, especially Zach, who was really eager to test it. They all sit down and read the play, which only takes about an hour, but also, they're still at school, so an hour feels a hell of a lot longer here. The plot is almost a twisted version of the one from the real-life musical. Carlo is a man who owns a theater and thinks the place is haunted. In the basement, there is a phantom man who lives in the basement, wearing a mask to hide his scarred face. Esmeralda is Carlo's daughter, the Christine Daae of this play. She's actually in love with the Phantom, but her boyfriend Eric finds out. If you know the musical, the Phantom's real name is Eric, with a K, so this might be a funny nod to it. In the musical based on this book, based on a musical based on a book, they changed this character's name to Raoul. The same as the boyfriend from the original real-life musical. Try to stay with me, this is a lot to take in. Because Eric finds out about this affair, he sneaks down to the Phantom's lair and fights him to the death. Seeing the Phantom dead breaks Esmeralda's heart, and so she runs away, never to be seen again. But the Phantom lives on as a real ghost to haunt the theater forever. So if you know how the musical, novel, etc. sequel plays out, you see how this twists that story. After finishing the script, Brooke has a very nice moment where she realizes that even though Tina is the resident bitch at school, she really does feel bad for her, and she doesn't want to be hated just for getting a better role. But no time for that, she's got to start memorizing lines. Class is dismissed, and everyone leaves except Brooke is pulled behind a pillar. It's Zeke. He wants to check out the trap door. What's the worst that could happen? Luckily, the room is empty now because Brooke starts sneezing. Apparently, she has a lot of common allergies that really pile up. Dust, pollen, cats, dogs, clothing fibers. She lets out 10 sneezes by the curtain before she can stop. I'm sure this will be relevant. In any case, she hits the peg to activate the trapdoor and rides it down with Zeke. Unexpectedly, it lowers even further than it did when Miss Walker fell down. It crashes down and throws the kids to the ground. They find themselves in a long dark tunnel and Brooke suggests exploring, but they don't have flashlights, so it'll have to wait. Brooke just suggested that to be brave. She doesn't ever want to come back here. So that leaves one question. How did they get back up? Brooke justifiably has a bit of an outburst towards Zeke, because this definitely is his fault. They start shoving each other until Brooke's back flies into a switch. It creaks loudly and Zeke yells at her to jump on the platform. It lifts them back up, though only to the place where Miss Walker was earlier. Perhaps you need to use the stage lever to raise it fully. Brooke provides a platform with her hands to give Zeke a boost, but when he makes his way up, he's gone. A minute passes and she's freaking out wondering why he hasn't either helped her up or raised the platform. Finally, a set of hands pull her up. But that's not Zeke! This is not an elaborate prank, though. It really is a new, scary person. An old man, only about as tall as Zeke himself, with a long scar, stares at Brooke. He's Emil, the night janitor, and he grills them both on why they're even here. Brooke's excuse is that rehearsal ran late and she forgot her jacket. And they know about the trap door because of Miss Walker. At night, Zeke talks to Brooke on the phone. They both try to hide how scared they were from each other and wonder why they've never even seen Emil before. Maybe he's the Phantom. The next morning, Brooke walks her little brother Jeremy to school and thinks about her lines for the play. Last year, she had horrible stage fright even with no lines. Now she's a lead role. She walks into class and sees a cute new boy sitting in her chair, kicking back with his feet on the table. "You're in my place," she says. "No, I'm not. This is my place." "Excuse me?" This breaks the kid's exterior quickly. "I think this is where Miss Walker told me to sit." She points to an empty seat to get him out of the way. "Sorry, I hate being the new kid." This kid is Brian Colson, and he just moved here. Apparently, he used to be in all the plays at his old school, so he's sad he couldn't transfer in time for the audition. Brooke says he should come to rehearsal later, and maybe they can at least give him some small role. Cool. Zeke arrives late as usual and doesn't have enough time to meet Brian before Miss Walker comes in. Then Brooke realizes she forgot her science book. She runs to her locker just to see that it's half open. When she opens it fully, someone's staring at her. Another gasp, and then she starts laughing. It's just Zeke's rubber mask again, but there's a folded note hidden under the mask as well. It says, "Stay away from my home sweet home." Brooke assumes this must be a joke, and I don't blame her. Apparently it's scribbled in red crayon. Perhaps the least threatening way to write something. She makes her way back to class and tells Zeke about it. He plays coy, or is he really not behind it? After school, Brooke drags Brian to the auditorium. For a kid who's in every play, he is extraordinarily shy. Unfortunately, there's really no rules for him to take, but he's allowed to join the scenery crew at least, a role he happily takes. Brooke sits down to start memorizing her lines. She only gets to the third one before the room goes dark, a blackout. Kids start screaming, pointing to the catwalk that someone's up there. The lights flicker back on and Brooke sees him. A creature wearing a blue-green mask and a black cape. He swings down to the stage on a rope and laughs. "The Phantom?" "No way, really?" Everyone's stunned. The Phantom stomps onto the stage, looking around, and Brooke realizes, hey, the Phantom is short as hell, exactly around Zeke's height. In fact, that probably is Zeke. She calls out to him, but the Phantom starts to disappear. He stepped onto the peg and is riding the trapdoor down. When it's finally all the way down, everybody in the class doesn't know if that was Zeke or not, but it has to be. Right? After a bit of arguing, the trapdoor starts to come back up, and stops under the stage as usual. Poor Zeke, he's getting his ass whooped for this prank, but when Brooke looks down, nothing's there. Would Zeke go so far to scare people as to disappear into that basement and not come back up? Yes. The rehearsal is cancelled, and unless a new culprit gets found soon, Zeke is going to be drawn and quartered when they find his ass. On her way home, Brooke sees Zeke's mom pull into the driveway with Zeke as well. Brooke calls him a POS, SOB, you name it. But he said he couldn't have been there. He already told Miss Walker, if she would have listened, that he had a dentist appointment today. Then who was it? Brooke asks. Zeke only smiles. The next day, Brooke talks to Brian some more and asks him about the Zeke business. He talked to Miss Walker apparently, and he gets to stay in the play, for now. Brooke still believes Zeke is behind all of it. Perhaps he did all of that and then went to the dentist? Who knows? Miss Walker calls Brooke, Zeke, and their understudies up to the stage to do some blocking. Tina gossips about the Phantom to Brooke, causing her to miss her cue to hit the stage and piss off Miss Walker. How rude! Tina also has to yell out what Brooke's next line is for her. After that, it's Zeke's turn, but he's gone yet again. A few moments later, the trapdoor rises up, this time all the way to the top, and Zeke appears in full costume. Instead of saying his line, though, he strides over to Brooke and shakes her shoulders. "Go away," he whispers. Uh-oh. Brooke looks over, someone waving across the stage. Zeke! No one else sees through the deception, and the Phantom whispers into Brooke's ear the same thing from the note. "Stay away from my home, sweet home." Then he leaps off the stage and runs out the auditorium doors. Okay then. Zeke says they must have a real Phantom at this school, and Brooke tries her best to read his body language to see if he's lying. She can't really tell, but she says, "Well, I saw you and Andy Seltzer talking this morning. Maybe you gave him the costume." Zeke says he wishes he thought of something like that, but really, he didn't. Brooke's next guest is Tina, who's just now asked if she was feeling sick on stage. Tina's practically begging for Brooke to get the flu just so she can take her role. But again, there's not much evidence to go off. Brooke starts to walk home with Brian and Zeke in tow. Zeke remembers he left his math book in the auditorium the other night, making this the third time something was left behind. Brooke decides to go with him and Brian quickly leaves. The two go to the office to see if anybody turned it in, and the only one left there at the moment is Dot, the secretary. Zeke asks if anyone turned the book in, maybe Emil, the night janitor. Emil? We don't have a night janitor. Zeke calls Brooke at night explaining that Emil must be the Phantom. He lied about working for the school and he's the perfect height. It only makes sense. Overnight, Brooke has a nightmare about the play. She's on stage, but she's forgotten every line and panics in front of the audience. At school, Zeke drags Brooke right inside to get Miss Walker's attention right before the class bell rings. They try to tell Miss Walker about there being a real phantom, but she assumes they're just too scared from the story she made up. The bell rings and there's no more time to talk. Maybe if you kids decided to actually say there's an old man named Emil sneaking around at night, that would mean something, instead of just saying that there's a phantom. After dinner, Zeke hatches a plan to prove the phantom is real. He brings Brooke and goes to the school under the lie that they have rehearsal. Oh, and Brian's there too. He's there because why not? Brian asks a good question on what if there are burglar alarms. Zeke says their school's pretty low income, can't even afford pencil sharpeners. They still need a way to break in though. The front doors, side doors, and back doors are all locked. In the light of the moon, Brooke scans around and notices a single classroom with its window half open. It's the home ec room, open because all the kids burnt some muffins that afternoon and just left it open. The kids are all pretty scared, Brian the most, but they still make it to the auditorium. Near the stage now, they all hear a cough. They aren't alone. None of them can speak. The clanking sound causes them to jump. For some reason, the backdrop starts to unfurl. It reveals what the scenery kids have all been working on, a gray brick wall scene, but there's red paint smeared all over it. Brian's pissed, but Zeke gets the courage to get on stage and yell out to the culprit. No one answers. The closer they get, they see a message written in paint on the bottom of the backdrop. Stay away from my home sweet home. Always the same. A side door pulls open, and you won't believe who they see. It's Miss Walker. She says she's very disappointed in them for breaking and entering, but then she sees the backdrop. She starts to tear up, asking if it was worth ruining the play and committing a crime just for fun. They beg her to let them explain, and finally she does. They tell her everything, but still won't really mention Emil at all for some reason. This helps convince her at least a little bit. She at least almost believes they didn't do the paint smearing business. Miss Walker clicks on a light for them all to leave, and they notice red shoe prints on the floor. A careless criminal, it seems. They follow the trail until it stops, right in front of a locker. Zeke's locker! Miss Walker orders Zeke to open the locker, and Brooke mentions he might have been framed, but when he opens the locker, the can of paint is freshly placed inside. Too late now. Miss Walker's calling his parents, and he is out of the play. If she finds any proof that Brooke or Brian are accomplices, same punishment for them too. Zeke slams the locker as hard as he can, and all the kids go home. Brian asks Zeke how the paint even got in there, like he would know, and then Zeke kicks some random trash around on the ground. He's so pissed he doesn't even walk Brooke home, he just goes right to his own house. Brooke starts walking slowly and notices some headlights coming towards her. It's Tina on a bike. When asked, she says that she just came from a friend's house, definitely not the school. She tells Brooke to zip up her jacket too, wouldn't want to catch a cold. On Saturday, rehearsal goes on all day long, the play being just a week away. Robert Hernandez is taken over as the Phantom, and while he's fine, he's a no-nonsense, humorless kind of guy. After lunch, Brooke goes to talk to Brian, who's painting the new backdrop. He mentions that since Zeke was kicked out, none of these practical jokes have happened, and Brooke hadn't thought of that. Maybe Zeke really was the Phantom. Apparently his parents grounded him for life, and took away his VCR. He'll never see the original cuts of Star Wars again. Miss Walker comes back from lunch to announce they'll be starting from the top of Act 2. Then she starts getting angry. Who did this? Her entire script is glued together. She heaves the thing at the wall and yells, "The play is over!" Later, Brooke tells Zeke that she didn't actually cancel the play, but she really was mad for the rest of the day. Brooke and Brian are at Zeke's house to give him some updates because, grounded forever. Zeke's dog Buster barks at Brian like a maniac, running away when Brian tries to pet him. Zeke knows this proves he isn't the only prankster in this class. He's got an idea. If he could go to the school and find the real Phantom, again, he'd bet that Miss Walker will give him the part back and his parents will be happy that he's innocent. You might almost think that Zeke's the main character in this book. I don't think I've seen a character in Goosebumps just as passive and unimportant to the plot as Brooke. Poor girl. So how could she and Brian refuse this plan? At night they sneak back into the school because for some reason that damn home ec window is still open. This time they have flashlights though and easily make it to the stage. Like the end of the musical, it's time to descend to the basement and hunt down the Phantom. Brian wants to stay above to keep watch, but Zeke won't let him. He needs 2 witnesses. They all ride the trapdoor down to the bottom, and Zeke starts calling for the Phantom like he's a dog, trying to calm his own fears, it seems. The group takes some slow steps down the tunnel until they hear a noise. The trapdoor! It activates, and rises up before they can make it on. Oh no. The Phantom must have did it. Zeke's motivation is even greater now. He picks up the pace and the tunnel goes on for a while until reaching a doorway. Inside is a completely furnished room. Bookshelves, a messy bed. Cereal? This must be the Phantom's room, and he was literally just here, because the cereal bowl on the table hasn't even gone soggy. This is like the most obscure Ace Attorney level clue. Remember how Brooke has insanely broad yet somehow specifically activated allergies? Well, here we go again. She sneezes 7 times, and the Phantom must have heard it as the door closes behind them. Zeke moves over to open the door, but it doesn't move. They're locked in! Brooke suggests they all try pushing the door together, breaking it if they have to. They all get ready to push, and then the dumbest thing I have ever read happens. Wait a minute, Brooke says. We pushed the door open to get in here, right? So we can't push it back open, we have to pull it. So she pulls the doorknob and it opens easily. Really. When they open it, a man blocks the door. Emil. He scowls at them and asks, "Why are you in my home?" "So you are the Phantom." "I guess you could call me that." So yes, Emil has been behind all those home sweet home incidents, all because he didn't want the kids to discover his home. Evidently, shitty plan. Brooke rapid fires questions about the original play and Emil starts stammering, absolutely confused. "Hey, I'm not that old, I'm only 57. He doesn't really understand all the Phantom business. He's just a homeless guy squatting in the tunnel trying not to get caught. His father worked at the school for 30 years and used to bring Emil down here. Ever since he lost his apartment 6 months ago, he's been squatting here. Basically, this school is a shithole, and really needs more budget." Then Emil starts randomly becoming a rabid maniac. "You ruined everything." Then he starts moving towards them. Luckily, the kids are saved by the sound. The trap door. It's coming down, so the kids run towards it, ignoring this now insane Emil. Brooke even bumps into him, but he doesn't try to grab her or anything. Weird. When they reach the trap door, they notice that the person coming down is actually Zeke's dad. He correctly had the assumption that Zeke would be poking around the stage again, and it seems now, even the side door of the school is open. Who the hell's running this place? He heard the trap door moving, so he wanted to see what was going on. The timeline of this is really messing with me. Zeke said that his parents wouldn't be home for hours, so they went down, got trapped, found the room, and then his dad appeared. So either they were down here for a few hours and something moved the platform just now, or Dad was home really early, practically followed the kids, and then just waited a few minutes to use it after seeing the kids use it. Maybe we'll go over this later, let's move. No, they don't. Zeke's dad calls the police and they check the whole place out. They don't find Emil, or his food, or his books, just the furniture. So the kids are driven home, disappointed the Phantom was just a homeless guy. But this means maybe Zeke will get his part back, and the Phantom is gone forever. Why is the book still going then? It's the night of the big performance. Oh boy, I sure hope a chandelier doesn't crash on this one. Someone taps Brooke on the shoulder just before the show. It's the Phantom. Or just Zeke. But he doesn't say anything. Everything's fine until the end of Act 1. In this final scene, the Phantom is meant to rise from the trapdoor, covered in fog, to appear before his lover, Esmeralda. He appears and the spotlight captures them both. Brooke looks at him, but that's not Zeke! She almost cries out, but the Phantom squeezes her hand to have her not ruin the moment. He looks at her with eyes that say, "Remember the scene from the real Phantom, Point of No Return, where the Phantom's impersonating Piangi and Christine knows it, but they don't say anything because it would fuck up the whole performance? Yeah, let's do that." The play continues, but just like, can you tell I just watched the 2004 film again before writing this yet? But just like the musical, he starts messing up the script. He starts talking about his history as the Phantom in the play over 70 years ago, that an hour before the play began, he plunged to his death by falling through the trapdoor, and now is the night he's been waiting for, where he could finally play his role. The audience breaks the stage taboo and starts cheering. These idiots all think this is part of it. Brooke approaches the Phantom and goes to pull his mask off. He covers his face, backing away, yelling, "No, you can't!" He loses his balance and falls right back into the trapdoor, screaming all the way down until nothing. What's the deal with this trapdoor changing on a whim? He must have lowered it again himself to illustrate his point? How unfortunate. In any case, the crowd starts hooting and hollering. This is the best damn thing they've ever seen! Zeke runs across the stage and tells Brooke that he must have been knocked out cold somehow. No time for that. They need to find the Phantom. They raise the platform and ride it back down to the tunnel. They look at every corner but don't find him anywhere, as expected. Going off stage now, Miss Walker congratulates the entire crew, especially for those improvised lines. I have some friends who did theater in school, and I don't think their teachers were nearly as receptive to change. I suppose the second act went off without a hitch, and nobody questioned how Zach wasn't in costume after he fell into the tunnel, or the fact that despite being the end of Act 1, they didn't even close the curtain, but we will never know. In the crowd of all the excited audience members and parents, Brooke can't find Brian anywhere. Zeke pulls her out to grab their coats and leave. When they get home, they can change and head to the after party, which is probably held at a Denny's somewhere. When they get to their lockers, Brooke sees that hers is slightly ajar. She pulls open the door and a book falls out, an old leather-bound yearbook from the 20s. A bookmark is shoved in it, set to a page with an article about the upcoming production of The Phantom. They move the book towards the light to get a closer look at the cast photos, to see the kid cast as the Phantom who died all those years ago. It was Brian! What a twist! One that you could have immediately figured out when Zeke's dog barked at him, because as we know in Goosebumps, dogs always be barking at ghosts. To be perfectly honest, this book was heavily carried by my personal love for the Phantom of the Opera, and the novelty of a junior production level book with some inspiration from it. It was decently enjoyable throughout, but ended up feeling rushed at the end with too many questions. How did Zeke's dad see the trapdoor? How did Emil clear his shit out so fast? Why was nobody questioning Zeke being out of costume before Act 2? Why the hell did they add the push and pull door problem? Unfortunately, the actual play only took up the last 3-ish chapters, and I don't know if Phantom Brian is dead now, or just still stuck as a phantom, and decided to show Brooke the yearbook because, like, screw it, I'm done hiding. I assumed that either one, he got to live out his purpose for a few moments, passed on, or he's still here, and the success of the play means there'll be more productions he can try to weasel into. Maybe just don't use your real name this time, Brian. Infiltrating the school with no family or background worked well enough before. Seriously, give this school some more security. But that's not all, because this book actually has its own episode. Can't wait to see how much of the play we get to see here. Let's go. The episode starts with Brooke having a nightmare about the Phantom, with some mild jump scares that probably would have gotten me as a kid. The cast of kids is just chilling in the auditorium. Tina's still a bitch, but she actually doesn't want Esmeralda's role at all because of how the play is cursed. She tells the story about the Phantom Kid 72 years ago, and the Phantom of Canada grabs Brooke.
Esmeralda, I've come for you. Can I borrow some lunch money?
Miss Walker catches them in the act, and she knows nothing about the curse, just that she assumes it's some crackpot story Tina's grandpa made up. Brooke is also way more against having to be in love with Zeke for the sake of the play.
Do I have to be?
Too bad. Corey over here activates the trapdoor in accident, and Miss Walker tells them how it's still under maintenance, never to use it. This gives Brooke a flashback from her nightmare where the Phantom told her to join him in eternal darkness. Why wait? He's standing right up here. Zeke convinces Brooke to ride the trapdoor as usual. Brooke does the Velma bit of losing her glasses, and Zeke scares her because he's such a prankster. When it goes back up, we get the exact scene where it gets stuck and Emil pulls Brooke up. You can't actually tell if he's short, and he's not nearly as scarred either. Brian shows up the next day directly in the auditorium, and Tina must have the hots for him, but he doesn't reciprocate.
Oh, I forgot my script. Be right back. Hi.
Hi.
We cut out all the actual school classes, so Brooke loses her script and finds the mask in her locker, along with the message. You can easily tell the mask isn't the same as the one from the book, but Brooke saw it in her nightmares before. I'm beginning to think they picked their actresses based on how well they can scream, because the boys usually can't, and Brooke here is amazing at it. Also, Zeke just appears in her room looking like a goofball. For the sake of runtime, a lot of things happen at once. Brooke and Corey are rehearsing, and you clearly see Tina going up to the catwalk. The lights go out, and grown man Phantom here tells Brooke to go away and dips. Then the painted-on backdrop, or door, drops from the ceiling at the same time. Zeke shows up just in time to get accused of painting it, deflecting with his dentist appointment like before. Tina, however, mentions the trail in front of the whole class, and so then they find it in Zeke's locker. He gets kicked out of the play again, but either the actor or the script just really didn't have the energy to slam the locker as hard as the book. The next day, assumedly, they ask the real janitor about Emil, and well...
Night guy? What night guy?
Emil, the night janitor.
Night janitor? There's no night janitor.
Time to investigate the tunnel, and Brian isn't nearly as timid in the episode. Slowly, the trapdoor goes down. Seriously. They easily find the double doors leading right to Emil's room. In this version, Emil is really into dressing up as the Phantom and chases the kids until he gets unmasked. The principal appears because of a staff meeting, a lot more convincing than Zeke's dad just appearing, and Emil still ends up getting away. The play's back on. Zeke can't get the trapdoor to work, but then he's taken out immediately by the real Phantom. Brooke immediately ruins the immersion, but then she sees the Phantom's flaming eyeballs. He does the same off-script speech as before, and Brooke unmasks him and he is dead. Zeke appears on the trapdoor, and the yearbook comes with him. Wait a minute, Brian's the Phantom? The episode was alright, to be honest. Cutting out all of the non-auditorium stuff was a good way to keep most of the plot intact. The pace, however, was still lightning fast, though. Once Emil shows up, all three of his warnings appear fast, two of them at almost the exact same time. Zeke's removal from the play barely has any time to breathe either, as they immediately find out Emil isn't a janitor, and then go down to find him. Most of the confusing stuff from the book is better though, like Zeke's dad's intuition that something was wrong. Zeke also being taken out while in costume removes all of the problems of them never noticing, and how they end the play before Act 2. Personally, I also really like the flame effects in the Phantom's eyes. It doesn't really make any sense. Is he burning in hell right now? But I still thought it was a pretty cool visual. If that scared you, be sure to totally never check out Phantom of the Opera 2004. And be sure to like and subscribe because in 2 weeks, chronological release dictates that it's time for Tales to give you goosebumps.